The shuttle descended through clouds of purple ash. Ambassador Jack Morris looked out the window at the alien world below. The planet was called Throne of Ashes, and now he understood why. Everything was gray and dark, covered in the dust of ancient volcanoes. "This is it," he said to his team. 3 years of war, and it all comes down to today. The human delegation was small. Only 12 people had been allowed to enter the Valorian capital. Jack had chosen each one carefully. Diplomats, security officers, and one translator who had requested this mission personally. Her name was Claire Dawson. She sat in the back of the shuttle, her eyes closed, her hands folded in her lap. She was 32 years old, with brown hair tied back in a simple knot. There was nothing special about her appearance. She looked tired, like someone who had not slept well in a very long time. Jack had read her file. She spoke 14 languages, including perfect Valorian. She had survived the occupation of Keth 4 3 years ago, one of the few humans who made it out alive. Beyond that, her record was quiet. No awards, no promotions. Just years of steady work in translation and diplomatic support. He did not know why she had asked for this mission. But she was the best translator he had, so he said yes. The shuttle landed on a platform of black stone. Outside, Valorian guards waited in perfect rows. They were tall creatures, nearly 8 feet high, with bodies covered in hard crystalline shells. Their eyes were large and dark, and their mouths were filled with clicking mandibles. They looked like insects given the shape of men. Jack took a deep breath and stepped out first. The air smelled like sulfur and something sweet, like rotting flowers. Ambassador Morris, a Valorian officer, said in broken human speech, "You will follow. The Queen waits." They walked through corridors of polished stone. The walls were carved with images of war and conquest. The Valorian Empire had ruled 12 star systems for over 1,000 years. They had never lost a war until they met humanity. The throne room was larger than any building Jack had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. Thousands of Valorian nobles filled the hall, their crystalline bodies reflecting the dim light like a sea of broken glass. And at the far end, on a throne of black metal, sat Queen Saithra, the undying. She was ancient. Her exoskeleton was cracked and worn, patched in places with gold and silver. But her eyes were sharp and cold. She had ruled for 200 years, and she had buried every enemy who ever stood against her. Until now. Jack led his delegation forward. They stopped at the bottom of the steps leading to the throne. He bowed his head in the Valorian way, a sign of respect between equals. "Queen Saithra," he said, "I come on behalf of the United Human Coalition. We seek peace." The Queen did not move. Her mandibles clicked slowly, making a sound like stones grinding together. "Peace," she repeated. Her voice was deep and cold. "You burn my worlds. You kill my soldiers. And now you speak of peace. The war has cost both our peoples," Jack said carefully. "We believe it is time to end the suffering." The Queen leaned forward. "First, you will show respect. I will know the names of every human who stands in my throne room. This is our way. Speak your names, so my scribes may record them." Jack nodded. This was expected. The Valorians placed great importance on names. They believed names held power. One by one, the humans stepped forward and announced themselves. Security Chief Daniel Cole, Medical Officer Patricia Webb, Communications Specialist Henry Grant. Each name was recorded by Valorian scribes who scratched symbols into tablets of stone. Finally, only Claire remained. She stepped forward slowly. Her face showed no emotion. She stood straight, her hands at her sides, and she looked directly at the Queen. "Claire Marie Dawson," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. The queen's mandibles stopped clicking. The entire throne room fell into dead silence. Jack felt the change immediately. Every Valorian in the room went still. The scribes stopped writing. The guards stopped breathing. Even the air seemed to freeze. Queen Sathra rose from her throne. Her ancient body trembled as she stood. She stared at Claire with eyes that had suddenly gone wide. "Claire Marie Dawson," the queen whispered Dot, and then something impossible happened. Every Valorian in the throne room dropped to one knee. Thousands of crystalline bodies fell at once, creating a sound like shattering ice. The nobles, the guards, the scribes, even the queen's personal attendants. They all knelt with their heads bowed low. Only the queen remained standing, and she was shaking. Jack grabbed Claire's arm. "What is this? What's happening?" Claire did not answer. She did not move. She just stood there, looking at the queen with those tired, calm eyes. "You," the queen said. Her voice cracked like broken glass. "You dare return to this place. You dare stand before me." "I do," Claire said simply. "Do you know what you are? Do you know what my people call you?" "I know." The queen descended from her throne. She walked down the steps slowly, her ancient legs trembling with each movement. No one stopped her. No one dared to speak. She stopped directly in front of Claire. They stood face to face, the ancient alien queen and the tired human woman. "Oracle of Ending," the queen said. "Speaker of death. The one who killed my son with nothing but words." Jack felt his blood turn cold. He looked at Claire, but her expression had not changed. She showed no fear, no surprise, nothing at all. "I did not kill your son," Claire said quietly. "You spoke his death into existence. By our oldest laws, that is worse than murder. I know what your people believe. Then why have you come?" The queen's voice was filled with rage and something else. Something that sounded almost like fear. "Why return to the empire that would see you dead? Why stand before me, knowing what I could do to you?" Claire looked at the queen for a long moment. The silence in the throne room was absolute. 10,000 Valorians knelt in terror, and at the center of it all, one human woman faced the most powerful being in 12 star systems. "Because," Claire said, "your son asked me to." The queen froze. Her mandibles stopped moving. Her dark eyes went wide with shock. And in that moment, Jack Morris realized that this negotiation was not going to be anything like he expected. 3 years earlier, the war had just begun. Claire Dawson was not a translator then. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. She worked on a small research station on a planet called HFY, a mining world on the border between human and Valorian space. The station had been peaceful once. Humans and Valorians worked together there, sharing knowledge and resources. Claire had spent 2 years learning their language, studying their biology, and trying to understand their culture. Then, everything changed. The Valorian fleet arrived without warning. Within hours, they had seized control of the entire planet. The human colonists were rounded up and placed in holding cells. The research station became a prison. Claire remembered the day the soldiers came for her. They dragged her out of her cell and threw her into a transport ship. She did not know where they were taking her. She did not know if she would survive. The ship landed at a military base in the mountains. Claire was brought before a young Valorian commander. He was tall and proud, with a crystalline shell that gleamed like polished gold. His name was Prince Velkai, and he was the only son of Queen Sathra. "You speak our language," the prince said. It was not a question. Claire nodded. "I do. How did you learn?" "I studied. I listened. I wanted to understand your people." The prince made a clicking sound with his mandibles. It was the Valorian equivalent of a laugh. A human who wants to understand. How amusing. He circled around her slowly, studying her like she was an insect under glass. Claire kept her eyes forward. She did not show fear. "Do you know why you are here?" The prince asked. "No. My mother has ordered me to make an example of the human colonists. She wants the galaxy to see what happens when you challenge the Valorian Empire." He paused. "Tomorrow, I will execute every human on this planet, and you will watch." Claire felt her heart go cold, but she did not let her face change. She had learned long ago how to hide her emotions. "You do not react," the prince said. "Most humans beg. They cry. They promise anything to survive. But you stand there like stone. Would begging change your mind? No. Then why waste my breath?" The prince studied her for a long moment. There was something in his eyes that Claire could not read. It was not cruelty. It was something else. Something heavy and tired. "You know our customs," he said finally. "You have studied our ways. I have. Then, you know about the right of judgment." Claire felt her pulse quicken. The right of judgment was one of the oldest traditions in Valorian culture. It was a sacred challenge, a test of truth. Two beings would face each other and speak their deepest truth. The one who spoke false would suffer spiritual death in the eyes of the Valorian gods. No outsider had ever invoked the right. The Valorians believed that other species were too primitive to understand its meaning. "I know about it," Claire said carefully. "Then, you know that if you invoke it, I must accept. It is our law." Claire looked at the prince. She saw something in his face that she had not expected. He wanted her to challenge him. He was giving her a way out. But why? "I invoke the right of judgment," Claire said. Her voice was steady. "I challenge you, Prince Velkai, to speak truth before your gods." The prince's mandibles clicked slowly. "You understand what this means. If your truth is greater than mine, I must release you and your people. But if my truth is greater, you will die slowly, and your people will die with you. I understand." "Very well." The prince turned to his guards. "Leave us. The right demands that we speak alone." The guards hesitated, but they obeyed. Soon, Claire and the prince were alone in the chamber. The prince sat down on a stone bench. He suddenly looked very tired. His golden shell seemed less bright, his movements less certain. "You are brave," he said quietly. "Or very foolish. Maybe both. Speak your truth, human. Let us see what you believe is worth dying for." Claire took a deep breath. She had one chance. One truth that might save everyone. "My truth," she said, "is that I sent a distress signal 3 days ago. A human rescue fleet is on its way. They will arrive in 6 hours. You cannot stop them, and you cannot hide from them. If you execute the colonists, the fleet will destroy this base and everyone in it. That is my truth." The prince stared at her. For a moment, he did not move. Then he laughed. "A rescue fleet? You are lying. No human ship could reach us so quickly." "The right does not care what you believe," Claire said. "It only cares what is true." The prince's laughter faded. He looked at her with new eyes, and Claire saw doubt creeping into them. "Now," she said, "speak your truth." The prince was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "My truth," he said, "is that I do not want this war. I follow my mother's orders because I have no choice. She would kill me if I refused. But I am tired of death. I am tired of conquest. I am afraid." He paused. "I am afraid that this war will destroy my people." Claire felt something shift in her chest. She had expected cruelty. She had expected arrogance. She had not expected this. "If you die," the prince continued, "find my mother. Tell her what I said. Tell her that her son saw the end coming, and he was too weak to stop it. Tell her. His voice broke. Tell her that I loved her, and that I am sorry. Before Claire could respond, alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed throughout the base. The prince looked up in shock. The human fleet had arrived early. Everything happened quickly after that. Explosions shook the building. Valorian soldiers ran through the corridors, shouting orders. The prince drew his weapon and ran toward the door. "Wait," Claire called out. "Please, just surrender. You do not have to die." But the prince did not listen. He ran into the chaos outside. Claire never saw exactly what happened next. She heard gunfire. She heard screaming. And when the smoke cleared, she found Prince Velkai lying on the ground, his golden shell cracked and broken. He had been shot by his own soldiers in the crossfire. He was already dying when she reached him. "Tell her," he whispered. "Promise me." "I promise," Claire said. The prince closed his eyes. And then he was gone. Claire sat there for a long time, holding the hand of a dead prince while the world burned around her. She had not killed him, but she had spoken the truth that led to his death, and she had made a promise that she intended to keep. The throne room remained frozen in silence. Ambassador Jack Morris stared at Claire, his mind racing with questions. Around them, thousands of Valorian nobles still knelt on the cold stone floor. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the Queen's ragged breathing. "What did you say?" Queen Sathra's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you mean? My son asked you." "We should speak privately," Claire said. "What I have to tell you is not for the ears of your court. You do not give orders here, human. You stand in my throne room, surrounded by my guards. I could have you killed with a single word." "You could," Claire agreed. "But then you would never know what your son said before he died." The Queen's mandibles clicked rapidly. It was a sign of distress, of emotions too strong to control. Her ancient body trembled as she fought to maintain her composure. Jack stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I do not understand what is happening here. I came to negotiate peace, not to witness whatever this is. Perhaps you could explain." The Queen turned her cold eyes toward him. "You do not know who this woman is? You brought her into my presence without knowing what she has done. I know she survived Keth4. I know she is an excellent translator. Beyond that, her record is clean. Her record is clean because your human files cannot record what she did to my people." The Queen looked back at Claire. "She did not just survive Keth4. She destroyed everything my son was trying to build. She spoke death into existence." "I do not understand," Jack said. The Queen made a sound of frustration. "Of course you do not. Humans are young and ignorant. You do not understand the weight of words." She turned to address her kneeling court. "Rise, all of you, but do not speak. No one speaks until I give permission." The Valorians rose slowly, their crystalline bodies clicking and scraping against each other. They kept their heads bowed, their eyes fixed on the ground. Claire noticed that none of them would look at her directly. "In our oldest traditions," the Queen said, "words have power. When someone speaks truth, they shape reality itself. This is why we record every name. This is why we honor oaths above all else. And this is why we fear the Oracle of Ending." She pointed at Claire. "An oracle is someone who speaks truth so powerful that it changes the course of fate. An oracle of ending is someone whose truth brings death. Not through weapons, not through violence, through words alone." Jack shook his head. "That sounds like superstition. Call it what you wish. But my son is dead. He died because this woman spoke truth to him. She invoked our most sacred right, and she used it to destroy him." The Queen's voice cracked with grief. "My people kneel because they believe that if they speak in her presence without permission, their own death truth might be revealed. They are terrified of her." Claire had listened in silence. Now she stepped forward, and every Valorian in the room flinched. "I did not kill your son," she said quietly. "I spoke truth to him, yes. But my truth was only that a rescue fleet was coming. He died in the crossfire of battle. He was shot by his own soldiers, not by any word I spoke. You invoked the right. You forced him to respond. Everything that followed was because of you. I was trying to save my people. Your son was going to execute innocent colonists. What would you have done in my place?" The Queen was silent. Her dark eyes burned with rage and pain. "But that is not why I am here," Claire continued. "I did not come to argue about the past. I came because I made a promise, and I intend to keep it." "What promise?" "Before your son died, he spoke his truth to me. The right demanded it. He told me things that no one else has ever heard. Things meant for you." The Queen went completely still. "You are lying." "I have never lied in my life. And I certainly would not lie about this." Jack watched this exchange with growing amazement. He had spent years in diplomacy, negotiating with aliens across the galaxy. He had never seen anything like this. The most powerful ruler in 12 star systems was trembling before a quiet human translator. "If you have something to say," the Queen said slowly, "say it here. Let my court hear." "No." Claire's voice was firm. "Your son's truth is for you alone. That is what he wanted. That is what I promised. And if I refuse to hear you, if I have you executed right now, then you will spend the rest of your life wondering what he said. And when you die, you will go to your gods knowing that you threw away your son's final words out of pride and fear." The throne room was completely silent. Every Valorian stood frozen, watching the confrontation between their queen and the human oracle. Queen Sathra stared at Claire for a long time. Her mandibles clicked slowly, a sound of deep thought. "You are brave," she finally said. "My son always admired bravery. He was brave, too. Braver than you know." Something flickered in the Queen's eyes. It might have been anger. It might have been hope. "Very well," she said. "We will speak in private. Ambassador Morris, you and your delegation will wait here. My guards will ensure your safety." Jack started to protest. "Your Majesty, I cannot allow one of my people to go with you alone. There must be some guarantee of her safety." "I give you my word," the Queen said. "No harm will come to her while she is in my presence. This is a sacred matter now. Even I would not break such an oath." Jack looked at Claire. "Are you sure about this?" Claire nodded. "This is why I came. This is what I have been working toward for 3 years." 3 years? Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" But Claire did not answer. She simply followed the Queen as the ancient ruler turned and walked toward a private door behind them. Thrown. The Valorian nobles watched them go. Their crystalline faces showed no emotion, but their bodies were stiff with tension. They had witnessed something unprecedented. A human had faced their queen and had not been destroyed. A human had spoken words that made the Undying herself tremble. Jack Morris stood alone in the great throne room, surrounded by aliens who would not meet his eyes. He did not know what was happening. He did not know what Claire had done or what she was about to do. But he had a feeling that the galaxy was about to change. The private chamber was small and dark. Ancient tapestries covered the walls, showing images of Valorian history stretching back thousands of years. In the center of the room stood 2 simple chairs, carved from black stone. Queen Sathra lowered herself into one chair. Her ancient body creaked as she sat. Without her court watching, she seemed smaller somehow, older, more tired. "Sit," she said to Claire. Claire sat in the other chair. They faced each other across a distance of only a few feet. 2 beings from different worlds, brought together by war and death and a promise made in blood. "Before we speak," the Queen said. "I want to understand something. You came here knowing what my people believe about you. You knew they would call you a monster. You knew I might have you killed. Why risk everything? Because I made a promise to your son. A promise to a dying enemy. Most would forget such a thing. I am not most people." The Queen studied her for a long moment. "No, you are not." She paused. "Tell me about that day. Tell me everything." Claire closed her eyes. The memories came flooding back, as fresh and painful as the day they were made. "When I was brought before your son," she began, "I expected him to be cruel. The Valorians I had encountered before were proud and harsh. They looked at humans like we were insects. I thought your son would be the same. And was he? At first, he tried to be. He spoke about executing the colonists. He tried to frighten me. But I could see something in his eyes. Something he was trying to hide." Claire opened her eyes and looked at the Queen. "He was scared. Not of me. Not of the war. He was scared of himself." The Queen's mandibles clicked softly. "My son was never afraid of anything. With respect, you are wrong. He was terrified. He just hid it well. How could you possibly know what my son felt? Because he told me. During the rite, he had to speak his truth. And his truth was that he did not want the war. He never wanted it. He followed your orders because he loved you and because he was afraid of disappointing you. But he believed the war was wrong." The Queen said nothing. Her crystalline shell seemed to grow darker, as if shadows were gathering beneath the surface. "He told me that he had seen too much death," Claire continued. "He said that every human he killed haunted him. He could not sleep. He could not eat. He went through the motions of being a warrior prince, but inside, he was falling apart." "Stop." "He said that he wanted to tell you how he felt, but he knew you would not listen. You were so certain that the war was necessary, so certain that the Valorian Empire would triumph. He did not want to seem weak in your eyes. I said stop." But Claire did not stop. The words poured out of her, all the truths she had carried for 3 years. "He said that if he died, he wanted you to know the truth. He wanted you to understand that this war would destroy your people. Not because humans are stronger, not because our weapons are better, but because wars never end the way you expect them to. They twist and grow and consume everything in their path." The Queen rose from her chair. She turned away from Claire, facing the wall of ancient tapestries. "Why are you telling me this?" Her voice was barely audible. "Because it was his final wish. Because he loved you, and he wanted you to know. He could not have loved me. I sent him to that planet. I ordered him to do terrible things. I made him into a weapon. Parents make mistakes. Children understand that. He knew you were trying to protect your empire. He knew you believed you were doing the right thing. He did not hate you for it." The Queen's body shook. A strange sound came from her throat, something between a hiss and a sob. Claire realized she was crying. Valorians rarely showed emotion in front of others. Their crystalline shells were supposed to hide their feelings, to make them appear strong and unbreakable. But grief was too heavy for even the strongest shell to contain. "His last words," the Queen said. "What were his last words?" Claire stood and walked closer to the Queen. She placed her hand gently on the ancient alien's arm. "He said to tell you that he loved you. He said to tell you that he was sorry for not being strong enough. And he asked me to find you and deliver a message." "What message?" He said, "Let this be the end of endings. Stop the war before it destroys everything. Build something new instead of tearing everything down." Claire paused. "Those were his words. I have kept them in my heart for 3 years, waiting for the chance to deliver them." The Queen turned slowly. Her dark eyes glistened with tears that should have been impossible for her kind. Her crystalline shell was cracked in several places, as if her emotions were too strong to contain. "You kept this secret for 3 years," she said. "You learned our language. You became a translator. You requested this mission specifically. All to deliver my son's message?" "Yes. Why?" "We are enemies. My people have killed your people. Your people have killed mine. Why would you honor a promise to someone on the other side of a war?" Claire thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. "Because your son was not my enemy," she finally said. "He was a frightened young man who had been put in an impossible situation. He showed me kindness when he could have shown me cruelty. He gave me a chance to save my people when he could have killed us all. The least I could do was carry his message to the person he loved most." The Queen stared at her for a long time. Then, slowly, she reached out and took Claire's hand in her own. Her grip was cold and hard, but gentle. "You are not what I expected," the Queen said. "Neither was your son." They stood together in silence. An ancient queen and a human woman, connected by the memory of a prince who had wanted nothing more than peace. "What happens now?" Claire asked. The Queen straightened her body. She wiped the tears from her eyes with her free hand. "Now," she said, "I honor my son's wish. Now I end the war." The doors to the throne room opened, and every head turned to watch. Queen Sathra walked in first. Her steps were slow but steady. Her ancient body moved with new purpose, as if some heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Behind her came Claire, her face calm and unreadable. Ambassador Jack Morris stepped forward immediately. "Claire, are you all right?" "What happened?" "Wait," Claire said quietly. "Watch." The Queen ascended the steps to her throne, but she did not sit. Instead, she turned to face her court. Thousands of Valorian nobles watched in silence, waiting for their ruler to speak. "My people," the Queen began, "for 3 years we have fought the humans. We have lost ships. We have lost soldiers. We have lost worlds. And I have lost my son." A ripple of movement passed through the crowd. No one dared to speak, but the tension was obvious. "I ordered this war because I believed humans were a threat to our empire. I believed they would grow too powerful if we did not stop them. I believed that victory was certain." The Queen paused. "I was wrong." Shocked murmurs broke out among the nobles. Some of them turned to look at each other, confusion written on their crystalline faces. "My son understood what I could not see," the Queen continued. "Before he died, he spoke a truth that has been kept hidden until today. He said that this war would destroy us. Not because humans are better warriors, not because they have stronger weapons, but because war itself is a poison that consumes everything it touches." She turned to look at Claire. "This human woman has carried my son's message for 3 years. She crossed the stars, risked her life, and stood before me today to deliver his final words. She is not our enemy. She is a messenger." The nobles began to whisper among themselves. Jack could see fear and confusion on their faces. Everything they believed about humans was being challenged. "I am old," the Queen said. "I have ruled this empire for 200 years. I have fought countless wars. I have buried friends and enemies alike. But I have never felt more tired than I do today." She raised her hand, and silence fell over the room. "I am ending this war, not because we have lost, not because we are weak, but because my son was right. There must be an end to endings." The throne room erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted objections. Military commanders demanded explanations. Some called for the human delegation to be seized, claiming this was some kind of trick. Silence. The Queen's voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "I am Sathra the Undying. I have ruled this empire longer than any of you have been alive. You will obey me, or you will face my judgment." The chaos faded into uneasy quiet. The nobles looked at each other, uncertain what to do. "This human," the queen said, pointing at Claire, "will not be harmed. She is not our enemy. She is something far more important." The queen descended the steps once more and stood before Claire. "In our ancient traditions, there are few honors greater than being named a sacred messenger. Someone who carries truth between worlds, between peoples, between enemies." Claire stood very still as the queen reached up to her own shoulder. With a sharp crack, she broke off a piece of her own crystalline shell. The shard gleamed like polished gold in the dim light. "I give you this piece of myself," the queen said. "It is the highest honor a Valorian can bestow. You will be remembered in our histories as the one who spoke peace into existence." Claire accepted the shard with both hands. "Thank you, Your Majesty. But I do not deserve honor for keeping a promise." "That is exactly why you deserve it." Jack Morris watched in amazement. 3 years of war, millions of lives lost, entire planets destroyed, and it was ending here. In this moment, because one woman had kept her word to a dying prince, he stepped forward and bowed to the queen. "Your Majesty, the United Human Coalition accepts your offer of peace. We will work with your representatives to establish terms that honor both our peoples." "See that you do," the queen said. "I did not end this war to start another." The negotiations took several hours. By the end, a basic framework for peace had been established. The details would take months to finalize, but the fighting would stop immediately. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Queen Sathra approached Claire one final time. "Will you return?" the queen asked. "There is much you could teach my people about humanity." Claire shook her head. "I am not a diplomat or a teacher. I am just someone who kept a promise." "You are more than that. You are proof that humans are not the monsters we believe you to be. You came to us not with weapons, but with words. You did not demand revenge for your suffering. You offered us a path forward." The queen paused. "My son would have been proud to know you." "I think he already did know me," Claire said. "At the end, we understood each other." The queen nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is what peace truly means. Understanding between those who were once enemies." Claire boarded the shuttle with the rest of the delegation. As the ship lifted off from the platform, she looked out the window at the gray world below. Somewhere down there, a prince had died believing that his message would never be delivered. He had been wrong. Jack Morris sat down beside her. "I have to ask, how did you do it? How did you carry that secret for 3 years without telling anyone?" Claire thought about the question. She remembered the long nights when the memories kept her awake. She remembered the weight of the promise, pressing down on her every single day. She remembered how many times she had wanted to give up. "Some truths are worth more than words," she finally said. "And some promises are worth more than peace." Jack shook his head. "I do not understand." "You do not have to. All that matters is that it is done." The shuttle broke through the atmosphere and entered the darkness of space. Behind them, the planet grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among billions. 1 month later, the Valorian Empire and the United Human Coalition signed a formal peace treaty. The document was hundreds of pages long, filled with terms and conditions and legal language. But in the preamble, one line stood out above all the others, that it was a quote from Prince Velkai's final truth, preserved forever for both peoples to remember. "Let this be the end of endings." And it was.